Howdy y'all, TheJTJ here with RollToWound.com. Today we'll be doing another Soulblight Gravelords Warscroll review. We'll be looking at the Cursed City units, Bloodborn, Vargskyr, and Kosargi. So, let's get ready to roll. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we'll be looking at a couple War Scrolls, the non-heroes out of the Cursed City box set. If you have anything to add to this, any good tactics or the way that you would like to run them, please put them at the comments. I'll try to pin the good one, and I'll make sure I comment on stuff that looks awesome to me. So make sure you're keeping me up to date with what all you guys are doing with your Cursed City units. Another side note is that these units are bought individually now, so there are some people still didn't realize that there was an FAQ and an update that you can take all these units by themselves. There's point cost for them, and we'll be covering that here shortly. So diving right in, the Vyrkos Blood-Born. They have this is a unit. They have 3 wounds per model, and 10-inch move, 6-up save, and a 10 bravery. They have piercing blades, which is 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 3s, -1, and D3 damage. Is a unit of Vyrkos Bloodborn has any number of models that are armed with piercing blades. The ability is Shadow Fast. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this unit. On a 5-up, that wound or mortal wound is negated. So basically, it is a 5-up Deathless or 5-up after save. Keyword Death, Vampire, Soulblight Gravelords, Vyrkos Dynasty, and Vyrkos Bloodborn. So the unit costs 125 points for 3 models. There is a minimum of 3, max of 6. Max wound output for the unit of 3 is 9 each and 27 for the unit. Of course, that's all things perfect, max. What do I like? I like that the vampire keyword, they have a 10-inch move, which is really good for a unit that's not cavalry, so that's really nice. Super glass cannon, but they will shred units. I mean, they have a pretty nice damage potential. Vampire infantry. I know before the book dropped that a lot of people was hoping for some sort of a vampire infantry unit. This is the closest Blood Knights, but a foot vampire infantry unit is sort of the closest we got, so I'll take what we can get. A 5++, that's what you're really banking on for your saves. What do I dislike? Not very survivable. Unit of 3, it's a 42 points a model, and that'll hurt when they die. You'll start missing that really quick. 1-inch range is another thing that it's going to make you want to take these in units of 3. Of course, you can do that double pyramid unit layout where you run them in sort of units of sort of 3s that are put together in little triangles. But you know, I still think taking them in 3, it might be the way to go. 2 units of 3 is not bad. Let's look at some damage, and I just want to run some numbers on these because I was really excited with the damage potential of this unit. So let's check it out. So there are a max of 27 wounds, and once again, that's everything's perfect. Their average is 6, so that makes that, and that's for the unit. So that makes, you know, okay, cool. It's a 6 damage. It's not too great, but let's start buffing them. If we give them all out attack, that's going to give them a damage of or average of about 8 wounds. With an extra attack from Call of the Hunt, you get a max of 36 and an average of 8. I think they will spike hard and delete units. They will surprise an opponent to underestimate their damage output. I think you're going to see that is when people start running these Bloodborn, people are going to, you know, opponents that aren't sure about them will sort of maybe, what are those guys? Not really worried. Then all of a sudden they're going to hit and they're going to pile on some wounds and they're going to go, oh, those guys are kind of a little scary. especially if they're buffed. They work nicely with Radikar the Beast, and I really just, that's my first thing is obviously that's his sort of minions, and the Radikar the Beast actually has some of these models as counted as mounts on his Warscroll. I think that they would just be beautiful with him on a flank running with Radikar. When he sets off his call to hunt, they're going to get an extra attack. It's going to spike everything. He can be there to buff them different ways. So I think that they're a great accompanying unit. It could work too with a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, Vingorian Lord, any fast heroes that you want to run them next to. They're going to be really good to get out there, go fast, hit a unit, and then you turn on the damage. The bad thing is they are very, very glass cannonish. You're really banking on a 5-up after save, and they're gonna die kind of easy. Okay, so you're gonna have to apply them and guard them until they hit. But when they hit, they're gonna hit hard, and they're gonna get their point. They should get their points back in one combat. Um, Giving them a grade of A might be a little high for how survivable they are, because they're not super survivable. But they're going to hit hard when they hit, and they're going to be worth their points as soon as they make combat. All right, moving along to the Vargskyr. It's a wound of 8, a move of 8. It has a 5-up save and 10 bravery. The melee weapons are 2-inch talons with 4 attacks, 3s, -1 rend, 2 damage, and your gaping maw with 1 attack, 3s, 2s, -2, and D3. It's a single model armed with talons and gaping maw. I saw some people asking questions about running these in units. You cannot. This is a single model unit. Abilities, Bounding Leap. You can attempt to charge with this model if it is within 18 of an enemy instead of 12. Roll a 3d6 instead of 2d6 when making a charge roll for this model. It has also Gnarled Hide. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound. On a 5-up, that wound or mortal wound is negated. So you get your long charges. Bounding Leap is a super good ability. There's not a ton of stuff in the book that's going to give you, or in Age of Sigmar in general, that gives 3d6 for charges. It's already decently fast with a move of 8, so this can keep up with Radikar the Beast. It can keep up with your cavalry. It can keep up with other things, even though it might not have the raw move numbers. That extra charge is really helpful with getting them into combat where you need them. Keywords: Death, Vampire, Soulblight, Gravelords, Vyrkos Dynasty, and Vargskyr. Its cost is 115 points. It has a max wound output of 11 and average of 4. I like the 8-inch move with a 3d6 charge. It's a 26-inch threat range. Now, those numbers are maxed out. Obviously, it's not going to, you're not guaranteed 26-inch charges every time, but that's what you can, look to say, hey, I could threaten those areas. So that is something to think about. It's a 5++ with 8 wounds. So not super survivable, but the 5++ does help keep it alive. It has quality attacks. Like, I don't think that its attacks are super volume. But with -1 rend, -2 rend, 3s to hit, 3s and 2s to wound, you're getting some quality attacks in there. And especially if you start buffing things, it should consistently do its 4 to 6 damage every turn. It's a vampire keyword. It's a point and click missile, meaning the Vargskyr isn't the type of thing that's going to hold the center of your line and be the damage dealing, take all comers. It's going to be more of like, oh, there's a unit over there I need gone. I'm going to point and click my missile at it, send him over there to go take off that that weak unit holding an objective or screening something. And the cost is very good. 115 points if you're looking for something that can run on a flank, that can sort of do its own thing, that doesn't necessarily need support. I think that this might be something to look at. Dislike 5-up save and Know the Hunger. I know, that would make him really good if he was able to self-heal. But we don't have that. So the save being a 5+ is not the worst, but a 5-up and then a 5++ is not super survivable. A unit you want to run on the flanks with support. By himself, he's not that scary, but supporting a hero or some dire wolves, he can take out weak points. I can see him running. If you just have a small flank, maybe you have a strong flank and a weak flank. Maybe he's on the weak flank with maybe a pack of dire wolves to just run around and, screen, attack, take on weaker units. I don't think he's an auto include, but could have his uses in an Alpha Strike unit or a hero bodyguard. This could also be, he's cheap enough that you can hold him back for a turn or two, possibly waiting for the right time to strike something to hit a unit in the flank, to hit a weakened unit and go ahead and finish them off. I'm going to give him a grade of a B+. I think it's a quality B+ too. It might be argued that he could be an A or higher, especially if you're looking at combos to buff him and make him better. But just by himself, I think he's a very solid unit that if somebody brought, I would go, cool. There's nothing wrong with taking a Vargskyr. But then again, there's nothing just in general other than his long charge and quality output that I'm like in love with the Warscroll. Now tell me if I'm wrong. How are you going to combo your Vargskyr? What are you going to buff him up? How are you going to run him? And like again, I see him as something on the flank, on the side that's coming, that's supporting a fast hero that's sort of like your hammer units. All right, we're looking at the Kossagi Nightguard. This is a unit. It has 4 wounds per model, 5-inch move, 5+ save, and a 10 bravery. They have 1 weapon, Bardish. Did I pronounce that right? 2-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s, -1, and 2 damage. They have Deathly Vigor. Roll a dice. Each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this unit on a 5-up, that wound or mortal wound is negated. So we have a theme here with all 3 of these Warscrolls. They all have a 5+ after save. He also has Servant, Even in Death. Add 1 to the attack characters of this unit, Bardish, while it's wholly within 12 of a friendly Radakar the Wolf. So on the Radakar Warscroll review, we did talk about if you're running Radakar, there are units to run with him, to combo off of him, to make him better. This is one of those units. Radakar makes this unit better, but you remember on Radakar's Warscroll, he can shrug wounds to these guys. And I know there's a lot of conjecture. I have my opinions about Radakar. Some people like him more than me. They like using the Nightguard with him as an extra wound pool. That's all 100% viable. If you want to run Radakar and you want to take the Nightguard, it makes 100% total sense. All right, so let's look at keywords. Death Ogre, which is interesting because they are undead ogres. So that's in there. I don't know if someone can tell me if there's some way to make that more useful somehow. If there's some way to get that keyword to activate somehow differently, that would be sort of cool. Soulblight Gravelord, Vyrkos Dynasty, Deadwalkers, Kossagi Nightguard. It's also a Dead Walker, so that's another good keyword on this Warscroll. All right, so they cost 95 points for a unit of 2, and they are a max of 4 models. The max wound output for the unit of 2 is 8. The average is 2.5. I like the Dead Walker keyword. It works well with Strength of the Pack is the Wolf. There's some other play in the book that'll arc on Dead Walker keywords. It's a 5++ with 4 wounds. So the 5-up save and then a 5++, 4 wounds. They're not super squishy. Works nicely with Radakar the Wolf. So once again, if you like Radakar and you're taking him, and I knew I'm taking him, these would be one of my first looks. Can I fit these in my list as well? dislike. They need lots of Deadwalker to buffs to make them worth taking. I think just raw on their War Scroll itself, this unit isn't really scaring anybody. I think that they can go in, they can do 3-4 wounds unsupported, um, but probably in return they're probably just going to get cut down in the first enemy activation. All right, my thoughts for 20 points more. You get 20 Deadwalker zombies. That's a lot more wounds, a lot more attacks. They're summonable. There's a lot more active. There's a lot more things that key off of the summonable zombies than it does just the Night Guard. So personally, if I'm building a list, I would try to get the Deadwalker zombies before I went with the Night Guard. That being said, if you're taking a list of Rad the Wolf, they are a good investment. However, without them, I think I would just take zombies. And there's still some arguments to be made of how useful they are to Rad the Wolf, because if you're going to be an aggressive build with him, these guys keeping up with him to actually wound shrug all that's going to become an issue. If you're going to play Radikar the Wolf, hold him back and use these guys as ways to get to wound shrug, maybe from shooting or magic, then that's a good idea. They could be a useful bodyguard for a backline hero or sit on a back objective. I mean, they are reasonably cheap. So if you're really stuck on points and you're like, I have less than 100 and I need another unit of something just to babysit an objective or maybe screen off an area to sit next to someone, just to be a bodyguard, you could look at them. Just keep in mind that they're missing summonable, they're missing Deadwalker zombies. So some of the Deadwalker stuff doesn't work on them. I'm going to grade them out as a B minus, basically, and they're getting in the B category in my mind just because you can take them with Radikar the Wolf. In general, on paper, I just don't see them being that viable. I think they're really beautiful models. I think they're cool. I think the idea of them is really good. I just don't see them being that useful on the table when there's other options that probably is going to be better. So tell me if I'm wrong. How would you use the Night Guard? How would you buff the Night Guard? What combos are you going to use to make these guys more powerful? And that does it for today's Warscroll review. Thanks for watching, and y'all be good.